Yes, this is Dear Potter here. I'm in a dog park right now. Just one thing after another. I'm trying to inch my way home because I just got through dropping off my daughter at school. And there's Goodness. Goodness. She's feverishly waiting for somebody or something to come through that gate so she can play with, but I don't guess it's going to happen. It's early and it is hot out here, and it is 11:24, almost 11:25. All right, I'm going to talk to you guys about a little subject that maybe you should understand and know about. I didn't know it was even in the Bible, and I have never heard any minister ever actually expound or even preach on what I'm about to say. It's coming from Proverbs, and it is, let me see here, Proverbs 3rd chapter, 25th verse. It's just a small verse, but that small verse says a lot. It's just so much in that little small verse. This is what it says, okay? It says, "Be not afraid of sudden fear, neither the desolation of the wicked when it cometh." Let me read that again. Proverbs 3rd chapter, 25th verse, KJV. "Be not afraid of sudden fear, neither the desolation of the wicked when it cometh." That is a little mouthful. And what they're saying about that is, don't be afraid when things suddenly happen to you. And I can remember that it's about 2 or 3 months ago. I mean, people were getting sick and taking like a week or 2 off work. And here I'm trying to understand. Boy, this sun is really something. I'm trying to understand what is happening to these guys and why they're taking a whole week off. They can't be that sick. And people, yeah, they are that sick. And I said, well, how sick can you be to not try to, winch up and come back to work, but to take 2 or 3 weeks off? Stop it. That's what I was saying to myself. Went home that day, and that was a Friday. Saturday was fine. This is my testimony. And then it came up on Sunday. Sunday, fine. Went to church, did all that stuff. And then after church, I came home. And at the time, my little girl, she wanted something from the kitchen. And I said, okay, I'll get it for you. I think she wanted something to drink. So I got up. And as I was going to the kitchen, just going to the kitchen, I have a small house, my throat felt scratchy. And then when I got to the kitchen and got the milk and turned around and going back through the kitchen, through the little living room, into the little hallway, I was struck with a headache. And after that, by the time I got to the door frame of the door to go into my room to give her the bottle, I was on the floor. This was something that came over suddenly. I was on the floor and I barely crawled to the bed. And I was shaking. I was in hives. It's not hives. I was shaking like I was cold. And then I had this fever that came on me. I don't know where that came from. I started burning up. And I threw the bottle onto the bed because, Baba, how babies ask. She didn't know. She just turned over and went to sleep and sucked on it. I was on the floor shaking. And what is this? Lord said, that's that flu that everybody had. It came on me suddenly, just suddenly, all at one time. My throat started to close up. I couldn't hardly swallow, like I had a sore throat. I had a flash migraine. Like, where did that come from? I rarely get any migraine at all. My body was weak, like somebody kicked me with an ugly stick or whatever, worked me over with an ugly stick. Everything was aching, and I couldn't even hardly get up off the floor. I didn't get up off the floor. All I did was rolled on my back. And I didn't know what this was. But I know who can fix it. I called Jesus. Jesus, what is this? You have to help me because I have to get up for work in the morning. It's just me and the baby. I have to get up for work. I have to take her to the daycare, and I have to get a beeline to the work area. And I barely winched myself up. I crawled up on the bed and meditated on the Lord. You know, Lord, you're the Alpha, you're the Omega, you're the beginning, you're the end. All your promises of all the Bible, you promise, you know, if we call on you and diligently, you know, in our hearts that you will fix whatever it is, I went to sleep. When I woke up in the morning, I was weak as a rag. I was very weak when I woke up. And I just started crawling around. I got the baby ready. I got myself ready. And I'm trusting and believing the Lord that this will be over. You know, it's just like joy will come in the morning. Weeping may endure for the night, but joy would come in the morning. And I got her dressed, and I went all the way down to the car, because I had to go down the stairs in the apartment I was living in. Got into the car, got to the babysitters, let the baby off at the babysitters. I was weak as a rag. And I said, I trust and believe in you, Lord Father, that when I get to work, this will be gone. I got to work, parked the car, walked across the parking lot, and fell on the back of a bus. And I was going down, and I pulled myself up onto the bumper of the bus just to stand up and lean up against it. And I was aching. I was walking my way to the time clock. Nobody didn't see anything because it was early in the morning. But when I opened that door to go in, and by the time I swiped the time clock and stuff, I was still feeling achy. I said, Lord, I don't even know if I can make it today, but I do need this paycheck, and I'm trusting and believing in you. And by the time I walked all the way to my bus, and when I got on my bus to crank it up, it was gone. Lord, what was that? The Lord calls it sudden fear. Sudden fear. I had to go back to my Proverbs and read it, because I only read it one time. Sudden fear. It says, Proverbs 3:25, be not afraid of sudden fear, neither the desolation of the wicked when it cometh. Be not afraid of sudden fear. The desolation of the wicked. Now you might say, what in the world is that? Desolation. That means something that's physical desolation. It means that it is a destruction or ruin of somebody who's wicked when it comes. I was telling some people at church what happened to me some time back when I was riding a bus. There was a gentleman that came on the bus, and I was picking up all these kids. They're high school. I'm telling them in the back to sit down, to get out the aisle, and all this cursing and stuff going on back there to stop it. And the boy just turned around and just slappingly cussed me out like I was some sailor or something. Okay, besides all that, he's getting up, moving on the bus. I can't move the bus with someone standing up, because if something pulls in front of me and I hit the brakes, the inertia will plummet you to the front and probably out the windshield. Anyway, he finally peeled and he sat down and he moved to the seat that's right in back of me. I had a lot of kids on the bus at the time. And when I got to the school, everybody kind of pummeled off of the bus. Now this one kid, he got up real slow. And he stretched his mouth. And he showed me his teeth. Now, I didn't know what that meant. Maybe he had a toothache. Maybe he was trying to see in the mirror what it was. I didn't know. But as he went off the bus, he took his right hand and he slapped me in the back of my head, and my head went forward and hit the steering wheel. I had a big red mark up there. I unbuckled my seatbelt so quick and I ran after that boy. I couldn't believe I could run that fast, but I ran up to him and all this stuff flashed through my mind. What I can do with this kid. How dare you touch me? How dare you flee like that? And everybody was laughing, just laughing. Because they realized what happened. And he told him, yeah, man, I hit you. And he thought it was so funny. So, when I got to him, I said, Lord, Lord says, no, I'm your avenger. I will repay, says the Lord. A small voice. I wish it was like a bullhorn. I'm your avenger. I will. It didn't happen that way. It was a small voice. So I turned around. I stopped in my tracks. I had the SROs asking me, I'll make this real quick. What happened? I said, he slapped me at the back of my head, and my head, hit across the steering wheel. And who was it? And I point to the kid. All right. They was telling me, you can press charges against him. All right. And da-da-da-da. And as I was walking away, I turned myself around and I walked all the way back to the bus. And the kids were laughing at me. Just like it was so funny. And I turned around and said, that's all right. God will get him back. Someone says, what? I said, God will get him back. And I got on the bus, cranked the bus up and drove away. Well, as I was driving, my boss was just on the radio. We heard what happened this morning. You need to come in right now. You're driving mad. You got to stop and pull up. No, there's nothing. I was mad, but I'm not the type that'll run off the road or something like that, okay? So anyway, I got all the way back to the thing. They had like 3 police officers upstairs with full gear. Yeah, that didn't help me out anytime. And then they had the principal up there, and my 2 bosses were up there, and some psychologist people with their clipboards were up there. And they were telling me around the table, have a seat. We've been after this kid for a very, very long time. And he's in high school. I did not know that he was in high school. I had no idea. And and they told me I told him that I'll write him up. I'll write up an incident report. And they said, no, Miss Morris, you're going to press charges against this kid. We tried so hard to get him, and now we can get him. We can actually get him now. I looked at everybody around the table, expecting. And everybody's eyes were on me. I said, no, I'll write an incident report. And I just got up. And everybody, and my boss, where are you going? I said, that's okay. God would get him back. What? God would get him back. And my boss was like angry when I walked out the room. I went back to work the same route I had, but it was the afternoon route. I went about my business. Now, since I said God would get him back, I think my boss had a little thing against me. And many a times when you have something like that occurs, they'll take you off of that route and they put you on something else so that you can get your breath back. Okay? No, she let me have the same route. And I had that same route for a good while. Okay, and people were laughing and everything else and just going on. Well, a couple of days from that, I think about 3 weeks passed. I was the very last person in the compound. I was writing my timesheet. And all of a sudden, through the door came this big guy. He was big. He walked through the door. He had a skull cap on, black. He had a black jacket on. It was black. It was kind of cool outside. Black slacks on. It was black. Black shoes on, socks that were black. He came through the door. Hey, are you the Potter? And I turned around and I looked at him. Yeah, I'm her. I wasn't afraid because the Lord He got me 360 and absent from the body, present with the Lord. He says, you know that kid that slapped you at the back of the head? You know that kid that did that? I said, I don't know his name. He's in the hospital, dog. That's what he told me. He in the hospital. I said, I'm sorry that he has a cold or something like this. And I am. I'm sorry he has a cold. No, it's not a cold. He's in ICU. He's in ICU? Oh. What, did he get in a fight or something? Yeah, it was a fight. I said, was it on school ground? Because they probably got the kids that didn't know it wasn't on school ground. It was off of school ground. A gang jumped him. His rotor cup, the right arm, all this is crushed. His rotor cup is crushed. They jumped on his elbow and they cracked all that up. His hand, jumped on his hand, he had broken bones in his hand. Went down to his ribs. They cracked his ribs. They crushed his knee on the right side and they stepped all on his feet so the arch is down flat. He's in ICU. His parents don't have money to take him to rehab. That's what the big guy said. He said, and he'll walk with a limp and a gimped arm for the rest of his life. I didn't smile. I didn't laugh because it wasn't funny. And if you read anything in the Bible, it would tell you that when something happens to an enemy of yours, to laugh and giggle at it, that wrath that's on him will turn around and get you. You don't want that to happen. I didn't laugh at it because it was sad, very sad. He'll walk with a limp and a gimped arm that's useless for the rest of his life. He turned around, he walked out of the door. I ran to the back door and I looked out to see there was nobody back there. I ran to the front door and looked out to see, because we have a broad parking lot. And if it's anybody out there walking, you can still see them walking away. The only thing out in that parking lot was my car. So the next day, my supervisors put me right back on that route. And all those kids that were laughing, thought it was funny, when they stepped up on the bus, their heads were down. Shh. Everybody was quiet that day. You can hear a pin drop. And that's the way it was for the rest of the year. Somebody in the back hollered, she has voodoo! Something! Voodoo, she has something. No, boo-boo. I told him that was not hoodoo or voodoo. I told you, I'm the real thing. So keep in Christ. Even if you have faith as big as a mustard seed, keep in Christ. Because your Lord is your protector. He's your avenger when things come. And don't be afraid of sudden fear, neither the desolation of the wicked when it comes. When wicked things come to wicked people who do things to you, don't be afraid of it. I'll see you guys later. It's very bright out here and I'm in the park, and I'll leave you a little tidbit for tomorrow. Departer out, and I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praise shall always continually be in my mouth. Bless you guys.